because they're not about me. It's not like me talking. It's mostly me just asking questions and I stop talking.
Oh no, I mean, like I've been watching them. It's like, I'm like I learned stuff about John Brantingham that it's like, damn, wait a minute, how come I don't know this? Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? It's like when he was talking about doing like the informal MFA and stuff. I've been talking to somebody about doing something similar to that, so I got to hook them up. So
right,
but
right.
but just like I said, like just on and on. It's like, no, good work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been working and it hasn't. Because I just ask questions. But anyways, figure out which questions went. I think we're live. But I never know. So I think we're live.
That's a scary thought.
Well, the Zoom like takes longer to connect than the Be Live, but the Zoom's like a better, crisper product. You get better picture, better sound, but the Be Live is quick and usually faster unless for whatever reason there's a glitch. Okay, we are definitely all this technical talk. We're definitely live. Okay. We're joined this hour by George Hammonds. I'm really excited to have you here, George. Can you open us up with a poem?
Sure. Let me set it up a little bit. This, when we talk about, where I came from as a poet, I have the oldest poem that I ever wrote. And it's not the first poem I ever wrote, but it's the oldest one that I physically have. And so I lived for a couple of years in Compton, California. I went to Verbum Day High School, which was in Los Angeles, basically Watts. And the year before I graduated, one of the guys who I went to school with was killed, and in a drive-by. And so what I want to do is I'm going to start out with reading this poem that I wrote when I was like 18 years old or 17 years old. So it's called The Pallbearer. I will bear the pall and speak the name Justin Henry. He was my friend, gunned down by thugs for no reason. I will bear the pall and speak the name Justin Henry, and as everyone files by to get one last look, I will be content to stand back because I know how he would want to be remembered. I will forever see him standing on the corner in his blue and gold Letterman's jacket. He is waving goodbye and smiling. So I will bear the pall from the altar out of the church and into the hearse. And there I will hug his mother with all of my heart, because there is a part of him still alive here inside of me, and it is reaching out. At the cemetery, I will stand witness as they speak of ashes and dust, and I will stay long after everyone else is gone, until the end, so that I will know exactly what the end was. And then I will go home and cry and try to contemplate this wound that time can't heal. So today, I speak the name Justin Henry, because I was his friend and pallbearer and witness until the end. So
powerful.
Yeah, and like I said, like when I was 18, 17, I've been writing for a long time, even though I don't, I was writing as a person who just loved to write. I wasn't writing for a goal necessarily.
Yeah. So we know each other through the Dawes Center for the Arts, through a meeting a lot around the events put on by the San Gabriel Lit Fest. For those not familiar with San Gabriel Lit Fest, can you tell us a little bit about the San Gabriel Lit Fest and how you got involved?
I moved to Pomona about 10 years ago, and I was actively, reading and writing poetry and stuff, like in the community, more so out in the San Bernardino area. And so I just wanted to get in touch with anything that was available here. And so I don't remember how I first, it might have been through, Tim. I don't know how I first got involved with the DA, but I started going there and I met John Brantingham, I met Scott, I met Lloyd Aquino, I met, I already knew Michelson because I went to Cal State San Bernardino with him. I worked there. And so it was like, it was just like a safe haven. It's a really good place. And there's a lot of support that goes on there. So that was how I got involved in the DA. It was just the local place where I could go and feel like I was contributing here, you know, like where I live.
Yeah. Um, so the San Gabriel Lit Fest, I want to talk to you a little about the DAW later, and you know,
Okay.
some of the other things, but I'm kind of interested in staying with San Gabriel Lit Fest. They're also doing things at the California Imagism Gallery. They had a really great reading there. Can you tell us a little bit about you know, your continued involvement with both the California
With
Imagism
the Lit Fest.
and the Lit
Okay.
Fest? Yeah.
Okay. Well, the Lit Fest, but okay. So once I started going to the events at the DA, then you know, several of the founders of the San Gabriel Valley Lit Fest are professors at Mount SAC. And so every year they would have like a 3-day writers event. And you could go there and take workshops and, you know, basically, you know, like do some performance and things. But basically, I think like I want to get as much education as I can. And a lot of times education is expensive or inconvenient, but I mean, you know, it was like a really excellent program. And so now it's turned into, oh, dang, I can't remember the name. I can't remember the name of it, but like they changed the name of the Lit Fest to, you know, like a much more, huh?
Culturama?
Culturama. Yeah, so they changed it to Culturama, but it's kind of, it's bigger than it was as the Lit Fest, though, I think, as Culturama. I think like more departments on the campus, I think, are now involved. But it's a really good, when I go there, what I try to do is I try to take workshops that are out of my normal comfort zone. So I'll take memoir, or I'll take, you know, like writing short stories or something like that, more so when I'm taking the workshops, because there's multiple workshops all going on at the same time. And it's not like I don't need help with poetry, but I think that it all makes you a stronger writer if you can add elements of memoir to your poems, or you know, like I'm saying, we can mix this up because we're inventing this stuff. So so the San Gabriel Valley Writers, the Lit Fest, you know, basically they offer performance opportunities, because they always have like a monthly reading, and usually there'll be a couple of features, and then there's also an open mic. So you get the benefit of getting to see, you know, people, and they have some good writers who come and feature there. So you get the benefit of being exposed to these writers. You can talk to them afterwards. We usually go and hang out and socialize a little bit. So you are in these environments where there's a lot of thought. There's a lot of conversation that you get an opportunity to have with people who are from, you know, professors and professional writers. And so now what's the name of John's new gallery? You just said it a minute ago. The one in Ontario.
California Imagism.
The California Image. So they had a normally the poetry festival that San Gabriel Valley Writers have every year would be at the DA. This year it was actually at a loft in Ontario, which was like a really cool space. But it's just like this time with the virus going on and everything is just so unfortunate, because we can't really gather like we would normally do. But you know, they just sponsor a lot of I'm babbling, but like they sponsor a lot of really good events. And you know, like the big event each year, I think, is probably, you know, like the poetry festival, and then you know, the Lit Fest at you know, Mount SAC. But I participate in all those, like the Writers Festival at Mount SAC. I mean, like I've been doing that for probably the past 5 years or so. And I mean, it's like, it's basically free, you know, like they accept donations, but it's like, it's the best deal in town, you know. I mean, it's excellent. And I'm a real big believer that it doesn't hurt to refresh yourself, or like, it's good to kind of return and look at where you're at, and to take as much education as you can get, especially if somebody's going to give it to you for very little, you know, like it's not costing you anything but your time. Now your time is valuable, but you know, I'm saying, like, if somebody's willing to put that out, then, you know, like, how can you turn it down? So I will go every chance I get.
Yeah. So you mentioned a lot about taking different workshops and building up your strength in different genres of writing. And I know you're also a photographer. So I want to ask you, before we get into the story, ask you a question about photography. Why do you think it's important for artists to, even if they're not going to be multidisciplinary artists, to really kind of expand their kind of like way of approaching art?
I think for me, again, I was writing as more so a personal exercise or something. I was just writing for myself. So then I started sharing poems with people. But I have a very limited academic exposure to that. Like I received a certificate of completion from Cal State San Bernardino because I worked there. And so I went and I took a lot of classes for writing. But at the same time, I almost look at it like it's a perishable skill. It's like you got to keep writing or you got to keep reading, and you got to have something that's kind of lubricating that process in a way. And for me, it helps me to refocus because you're kind of changing as a writer. You're building on the tools that you developed early on, and so you're like you find your voice kind of like how you tell a story. And for me, it's really inspiring. Like I like my teachers. Like I went to Cal State San Bernardino, and so one of my professors there was Juan Delgado, and I always look at Juan as kind of like being the guy who encourages you to find your own voice, but also to kind of structure it. To be free, but to kind of have some discipline. To work at it as an art. And so I had Juan Delgado. Then also I had Chad Sweeney. So Chad Sweeney is like like very energetic. And I always look at it like Juan kind of would have you say, okay, set the foundation. And then Sweeney was the type of guy who would say, yeah, but put a spark on it. And so as far as performance or as far as kind of like that emotional part that a lot of times lives in a poem, I think that I had a really good combination between those two professors in terms of writing poetry, because like I tell people like I've done workshops and stuff, and something I try and tell like especially young writers is like for me a poem I want for it to ring true, but it doesn't have to necessarily be all biographical or anything like that, but you have some point that you're trying to make through it, and so I think that between Sweeney and Juan Delgado, I got like a really good, like an injection of enthusiasm about writing that I had not had for a long time because I was writing, but I didn't really have an outlet. And so I worked at Cal State San Bernardino for many years. And as part of being an employee there, you can take like a couple of classes a quarter. And so, I had kids who were using my fee waiver and stuff, but every chance I got, I took something there. And so I started going to these poetry readings that they were having, and they were having like great, like Wanda Coleman and like these legendary poets were coming in. And so I met like all of the people in the MFA program and stuff. And I started going to these readings and constantly doing open mics. And so then I started, I got the confidence to start taking the classes there. And it's not like I was real like not confident, because if you said it's open mic, I'll go up and read, But just to kind of have more confidence in the idea that the way your poetry is projecting on the page is making sense. I mean, because it is an art. You got to have some basic skills or some basic ideas to bring the art out in these words. Because like anybody can write like some prose, like a paragraph of what they think, but to try and find like the rhythm or the imagery in it is what I got from my teachers there. And I mean, there was other teachers there like Julie Pagel and Nancy Best and Luz Hernandez. Luz Ramirez. I'm sorry. Like there were instructors there who I got a lot of stuff from, but like the main people who I was getting the classes multiple times were Juan and Chad.
Yeah. You mentioned Wanda Coleman. The name's come up several times throughout the course of doing all these interviews. Can you tell us a little bit about Wanda Coleman and what it was like to watch her perform?
It was really interesting because it was the first time I had ever gone to an open mic or to one of those presentations at Cal State. So most of the people that I met as a result of being around that program, I met them that day. So the same day that I saw Wanda Coleman, I met Tim Hatch. I'm not sure if I met Michelson on that day, but a lot of the people who were in the MFA program at Cal State San Bernardino. I met them on the day that I saw Wanda Coleman. And it was really interesting. I mean, they had like, and I talked to some of the poets who appeared on those programs when so they would have, Sweeney was running a program where about once a month, they would have a guest come in and then they would have an open mic. And I mean, it would go from like 6 to 10 o'clock at night. And so Wanda Coleman was the first poet that I saw in that program. And she was fantastic. But her poetry is like fantastic. But one of the things is we used to have a Q&A session afterwards. And that's where we would get to talk about craft and get to talk about, like, you know, these people, like, you know, she's a poet laureate of Los Angeles and stuff. And we would get to talk about, you know, what she thinks about poetry and how she arrives at what she's doing. So those were like, I mean, I love the performance process because that's what really inspires me to write more. But I also love the idea that they would just casually, we could have a conversation with them. And, you know, and it was like, everybody was always so nice in terms of the artists that would come in, you know, on and on. It's like I almost need a list of the names to tell you. But when I talk to different artists who were there, one of the things that's common is that they say that they really enjoyed visiting because, like, Sweeney would have his students, you know, studying their books and stuff. So I think a lot of times, you know, like as a poet, you show up somewhere, nobody knows who you are. You know, like, you don't really get like a real dialogue. You know, people ask you questions to kind of be nice, but they're not necessarily informed questions, you know. But I think that a lot of the artists who came out there, they enjoyed the idea that they had an informed audience who was, like, you know, really into what they were doing and wasn't just like stroking them, trying to tell them that they enjoyed it, you know. So as far as Wanda Coleman, I mean, that's the only time that's the only time I've seen her, but she was just cool. And one of the things I really took away from her was when she said that performance is totally different from the writing process and to treat them as two separate elements. And I don't, like, a lot of times I just show up and read. You know, I don't even know necessarily what I'm gonna read when I get there. I'm just kind of like feeling the vibe of the room and I'm gonna read what I feel drawn to. But it did make me kind of look at the writing process and the performance process. If you want the performance to be a little bit better, you got to put something into it. You got to read over what you're doing. You know, you have to work it. It's like I'm saying, like any art, you're going to have to cultivate it. You know, you're going to have to make it better than just like, oh, I just wrote it and now it's perfect. You know, like you have to do something. Like that's why we edit and stuff. You know, so like I said, I saw a lot of really good poets. I was like, oh man, I could go get their books. But it's like, just as far as names, I think Brendan Constantine came out there. I mean, like, just so many people. You know, it's like it was always kind of like, to me, almost like a master's class. You know, to be able to sit and to talk to people and not just anything technical, but the business side of it too. You know, it's just like, you know. Like for me, like I always had a job. I always say I'm like Bill Withers, you know, I had a job, you know, I'm like, I never looked at myself as somebody who's going to make a living at writing, you know? And so it was my passion. And then I got around a group of people who I started learning more technically. Well, you can publish a book, you can, you know, you can do readings, like, you know, this can, and I look at the financial aspects of writing, is that hopefully, if you're selling books, hopefully the sale of that book either is going to go towards a worthy cause or it's going to help you write better. You know what I mean? It's going to fund you to go someplace and see something that maybe you're trying to, like, I'm writing a poem about the Statue of Liberty and I've never been there, but it's like, the one thing I know is I got to go, you know? So if I can write and it will get me to there and I can use that information to finish that poem, I feel like, you know, like I'm saying, I feel like there's a trade-off there sometimes.
Definitely. Can you tell us a little bit about your kind of practice and discipline as a photographer now, and how it's similar and different to the way you approach poetry?
Okay. I went to school. I went to school to do television production at one point. And so I went to Rancho Santiago, which is basically Santa Ana College. And so they had built a new studio. And so I went in there, and so I did a lot of television production classes. So like, like studio, remote circumstances and stuff. So in terms of like cameras, like, so this was back in the days when everything was analog. And so we had these big, heavy cameras, and, like we would go and we would drag all this equipment, and we would make these, television shows, but it was like public access community television. And so I never finished the course, but I was always in school, so I was always taking these classes, but I never finished it. And so in terms of working with a camera, I'm comfortable with it. So I worked for many, many years as for public safety. I worked for a local police department, and like I worked for about almost 25 years for public safety departments. And so on one of them, I actually was a forensic technician. So I would go to crime scenes, and I would gather evidence and take photos. And so it's just like that camera is, very much an instrument that I can use to communicate. And so after all of that, like I'm always fascinated by cameras and stuff. And so I go to a lot of poetry events, and what I look at it more so as is almost like street photography and also documentation, because a lot of times somebody will have a poetry event, but they don't really document it. It's like, you have like all of these poets reading and stuff. And so a lot of times I just come and I kind of document it, and that way they can say, oh, like put that on your resume or whatever. I hosted this poetry event, and these are the people who were here, and I can prove it because I got photos. And so I do a lot of photography of poets at readings, but also it's like here, in my little apartment, I usually have my camera pretty close, and I have a little balcony, and off of my balcony I got like a couple of plants and a tree. So you might always see the squirrels and the birds and the bees and stuff when you're looking at my photos. But really, I just try and stay in the process of always take some photos every day. So I'll be sitting here watching TV, and I'll look out there and I see a squirrel jump into the tree. So I go take some pictures of it. So I try and manipulate the camera every day if I can. And I try and use, because the cameras now, they have menu after menu after menu. And it's like, it's an education. So I try and take photos every day with a little bit different goal. So maybe I'm shooting at a higher speed than I would normally shoot at. Or, I'm trying to play around, because like my photo editing program that I have right now, it has like 6 filters. It's really simplistic. So it's always kind of like a challenge of the equipment, and then the challenge of what your goal is that day. Because one of the things, like doing crime scenes, you document every photo. Like you say, this is a photo of this address, the building at this address. It's an overall view, facing south. Like you do a lot of documenting. And so the photography is very much like the poetry for me. Is just that it's something that I'm drawn to. I enjoy it. And so I do it as often as possible, because like that's how you develop your skill. Just keep doing it. Oh, I can't hear you.
And mute myself. There's a weird little I put myself on mute. Absolutely. I think that having these separate skills, how the question I'm really curious about is, how do they inform each other? Like how does the skills you develop as a photographer inform your poetry? How does your skills you develop as a poet inform your photography?
I think that they're very similar, because a lot of people would have no idea of, people think like I'm out in the woods or somewhere, like when I'm taking a photo, because I'm cropping it and I'm showing them what I want them to see. And I think in a lot of ways, that's kind of like what poetry is kind of like. You're kind of taking something and you're kind of creating a context for it. If that makes sense. It's like like a lot of my photos are really kind of pretty close up. And it's because like the wide view would show you all the cars and the parking lot and all of that stuff, and that's not really, like what I'm trying to look at, So I think that the poetry, to a certain extent, is, and you can think of different poets, how they work. And some people like might be really good at minutia, and then other people like good at like a big picture, like the overall thing. And so I think that like my photography kind of, I don't know, my photography is me, so it's like a poem that I write is like, if you know me well enough, you can hear a poem that sounds like me. It's just certain ways that I talk. And so I think that my photography, I think that a person who really watches a lot of my photos, like a lot of times, like you may be looking and it's like, why are the squirrels out of focus? And it's like, well, I'm really taking a picture of the leaves. The squirrels are just the background, So I think that kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, right? But it's like, I think that I'm compelled to do the poetry. I'm compelled to do the photography, and I enjoy it. It's not like like what else am I going to do with my time sometimes? So it's a discipline. Both of them are disciplines, and I think that's part of me. Like I'm a rule follower. I'm like a real, like so I'm always looking for discipline, because like too much freedom in my hands is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, I noticed that you want to shape things forward. But I think having a form, when you answer that question in your mind, how am I going to go about something? The what am I going about opens up. You know what I'm saying? The what opens up when you get the how tightly
Yeah,
structured.
yeah.
So
Well, it was funny. Well, it was funny. I was watching John Brantingham the other day, and when he was talking about the difference between form and free verse,
yeah.
and it was like, yeah, that's it. It's like I was agreeing with him, over the computer. Because it's like when you try to start out with a form and you know where you want to end, it's like you're working against your purpose. But like free verse, sometimes the middle or the ending is where you started.
Mhm.
So anyway, yeah, I think that form, or either like if you have a set of disciplines that you're going to try and work within, that like they're good. Like it's good to have an idea of how you're going to do it, especially when you're writing, because I think a lot of times your best writing kind of surprises you. It comes from a place where it's like when people are talking about writing novels and the characters take on a life of their own.
Definitely. So speaking of putting together, books, you have a book coming out. You have a book you recently released just
Yeah.
before the world shut down. So tell us about this book.
Wait, let me find it. I
Okay.
got it here with me somewhere. So I have, hold on. Oh, here it is. So I have a book called Witness, and it came out in February. And like you said, just before all of this stuff hit. And it's kind of like selected poems. It was just like, not necessarily a themed book, but my publisher, so it was published by Picture Show Press. And my editor was Shannon Phillips. And so when she got a hold of it, it was really kind of like untitled. And so after reading the poems, it was her suggestion that we name it Witness. But and I know, like, if I show you, does it look backwards? Yeah, everything goes backwards. So anyway, but it's Witness. Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. I have an older book called Hungry to Bed, and it's all love poems, but they're weird love poems. So like most people will like them because it's not all rosy and everything beautiful necessarily, but some is. But so I have two books that are on Amazon right now. So I have Witness, and also I have Hungry to Bed. And they're both like $7. They're chap books, and I feel like I should read you something from Witness. Let me see.
Let me unmute myself. Yes, please do.
Okay. Okay. It's interesting that a lot of people say, what do you write about? And so I remember when I was younger, I used to get like upset. Like I used to always take it like they're trying to ask me, what do I have to say? And then I started thinking about it, and I said, well, really, I just write about like family. I write about social justice, and I write about love, and it's like basically those are usually like if you look at it, it's going to be one of those three things. So I'm going to read a poem that's actually dedicated to one of my daughters, and it's called Doves. And so it's called Doves. My daughter calls me to the balcony, pointing to the tree beyond. She says, "Look, doves have built a nest and there's a chick." The instant I look, a hawk pounces down through the branches and methodically claws the nest apart. It then leaps away with the chick in its beak. The expression on my daughter's face is something blessed. A poignant grace visits her, and a visual prayer of brown eyes and surprise says that somehow she knows about hawks and doves, and so she does not judge. We exchange an instant of amazement that such a thing could happen at just this moment. Secretly, I wonder if it was somehow our gaze that gave the nest location away. I am hurt, guilty of being a witness. From time to time, for the next few days, I see the confused parent doves light on nearby branches and survey their tattered nest, or they strut on the patio railing and coo.
Wow. So tell us, what is it like to be published right before the COVID outbreak or in the midst of the COVID outbreak?
I'm just happy to be alive. No, remember, we were all at a reading right when this was starting up.
Yeah, we were
that
at
was right.
We were at a meeting. I want the public audience to know. I want the audience to know. We were at a reading about 2 or 3 days before it became irresponsible to do things like that. So I don't want anyone to think we were like reckless.
Right. Well, that was the thing, though. But
I need haircut, picket signs.
No, not at all. But that was the thing. It was one of those things where, when you look at how this administration has addressed this, some people were being more cautious because they were more tied in, like me, like especially like I was just finishing up this book. And so I'm like thinking about, oh, I'm going to do this. I mean, we were lining up, readings and things like that. And so, no, I mean, but it was literally like just the next week, everything was totally different. If it had been scheduled for 1 week later, none of us would have gone, like John would have canceled it. But the thing is, it's just like, this is the new, like we were talking earlier, before we went on, it's like, this is the new frontier. So I'm a true believer that in chaos, there's opportunity. So I mean, like sometimes we got to look at it like that, there's a lot going on, but again, it's just like, we're going to have to use mediums like this, and we're going to have small gatherings, and not try and have, a packed room anymore. And which is funny because poetry, like you think of the readings where you went to and there was only like 5 people, So anyway.
More of those things where there was 20.
Yeah. But I mean, oh, that's a crowd. But but it's like, so it's just like, this is life. We got to find a way. So I'm not, I try not to get too high or too low about stuff, because like this came out of the blue, and something else is going to come out of the blue too. Like, I mean, the worst part of this is that it exposes every weakness, every area in this country that has been vilified or treated as less than or treated as other. You look, the Black and brown community, the Native American community, fighting like hell right now, just to stay alive. And, it's like, and that's one thing about poetry, is that I guess, like, if I had to say what is important to me, is I hope that there is something human and something hopeful and something honest in my poetry that relates to people in a way that kind of makes them, untense, like chill, it's like I was relating. I've had a couple of conversations with, adult white males lately, and they are so angry. No, I mean, like, you're standing in line at the store, or like I was washing clothes one day, and a guy started telling me about the Illuminati and how Donald Trump is trying to save us all. It's just like, it's just like, but the thing that I'm trying to do is don't be angry and don't react in an angry way, but to try and invite them into a conversation and to listen to what it is, because most of it is just nonsense.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, like we like teams. And this is the first, I'm babbling, but okay, but like this is kind of unstructured. But this is the first time I've registered as a Democrat since I was 18 years old, or since I first got to vote. So the first time I ever voted, I registered as a Democrat. Uh, After that, I got so pissed off because I'm like I say, the only thing I hate worse than Republicans are Democrats. I'm joking, but but it's just like I wanted to be nonpartisan. This year, I registered as a Democrat so I could vote in the primaries, but it really kind of didn't matter anyway because everybody had quit by then. Like it was like down to almost like a one-man race, and so this is just this this situation has exposed every weakness. So like the healthcare weakness, people working for less than minimum wage, just on and on. Like our society is just so skewed. And this has happened within my lifetime, kind of like, that I see this big change, like since Ronald Reagan, this is where the middle class kind of disappeared to, after that time. And so we're like poor people who have a pandemic, and then you have a bunch of rich people who are bemoaning the fact that people aren't working. It's like, this is madness, and it's like, so how is it to have a book come out while the pandemic is going on? It's just another day, man. It's just like, what else could happen? It's like I knew I shouldn't have been trying to come out with the book. But it's disheartening, and that's the thing. But I don't know. I have a lot of confidence, but I think the worst thing is it's always going to be different than it was before. So it's like, like I don't care. Like 10 years ago, it was different than it is now, but maybe the health threat wasn't there. But I just think that we got to roll with this, But again, also we got to use this as motivation to make sure that no more knuckleheads and people. Like I say, like I can get really political, kind of like, but I try not to be. But it's just, there's no way that Donald Trump has our interest at heart, And I mean, there's no way a lot of people do, but it's just so blatant. It's just in our face, And I think that's the hard part. And so far, I don't know anybody who's contracted the disease or anything, but this could have been handled much better. We didn't need to be where we're at right now. And it's a mismanagement. And like I said, the guy is out there talking about drinking or shooting, antiseptics or whatever it is. And then everybody's trying to clean up after him. So like I said, I don't want to spend time talking about Donald Trump, but I just think that all has like the effect on how we're doing what we do. How are people going to work, and things like that. So much of it is based on the mismanagement of this circumstance. And it's not like we're the only people. I mean, that to me is the one part where when we're talking about our economy, everybody's screwed. So it's like, so there's gonna be the need to forgive some debt. There's gonna be the need to improve healthcare. I mean, there's a lot of needs that are worldwide. So it's like, if I'm broke, if I go broke and my neighbor goes broke, then at least we're on the same footing. You know what I mean? It's not like it's just me or it's just you. So it makes it easier. Like, misery loves company, I guess. So it's just like we're all, and I hate that phrase because I watch CNN and they're constantly, we're all in this, we're all in this together. And it's like, no, because I'm looking at these athletes and stuff sitting in their mansions. And it's like, no, like you send me over there, I go dive in the pool, it's like, some people are toughing this out in a lot more luxury than other people.
A lot less tough.
Yeah. So it's like, no, it's like, yeah, but we're all in it together. But you're in the yacht and I'm in the dinghy, so it's like, yeah, so it's tough.
Well, regardless, we don't have, you get like a house insurance in case your house catches fire. You get car insurance in case you get in an accident. We don't really have the supply. We don't have the insurance we need to deal with pandemics. We don't have, there's one hospital bed per 300 people in this country. And I'm not saying that there should be 300 million hospital beds, but there should definitely be more hospital beds than one per 300, right? Just in case, right? The lack of ventilators has been exposed. I mean, like, I'm not saying there needs to be a ventilator for every single person, but again, exposed. lack of medical gloves, exposed. The lack of all these really vital medical supplies, we simply lack. And we lack because we don't make anything in this country unless somebody can make a dollar. Nothing is
Yeah.
made but to make it, like Ford Motors, they don't make cars, they make dollars.
Yeah.
And not just them. I mean, like IBM, Apple, oh, everybody. They don't make computers, they make dollars, right? And so that kind of that way of doing things, as I think, it's not just one or two things that have been exposed. It's the whole thing. This whole way of going about life exposed. You know,
Yeah.
we definitely need to have, um, we need to have what we need, and even if we can't sell it, because when we need it, we need
Well,
to be there.
well, I mean, but that's so much of the um and it's not just America. It's all of these places that have been colonized and such. And so it's like, here you are, you had like, like when you listen to these administrators and they're like, oh, people got to go back to work. And it's like, well, what if they die? But they got to go back to work. They got to eat, and it's like, how can, like, so we have this society that is based on consumption as opposed to humanity. You know what I'm saying? So they're more concerned that you go out and buy and work than that you live. And so it's like, okay, well, that's never going to be a good formula for poor people. And so it's just like, if my life has no value and I have other people, it's funny because it reminds me, like, they're making the Dune movie. And so I constantly think about the idea. So in Dune, like the Dune books, there had been a big war at some point where men who controlled thinking machines or computers had dominated everybody. And so they made a rule where you couldn't have any more computers because men would misuse them. And like, that's what I always think about artificial intelligence, is that these guys who are not very smart are like, Bezos at Amazon. So if they're saying it should take you 30 seconds to do this one task, but it really doesn't take 30 seconds, but that's what their AI tells them. And so we're being basically almost like turned into these matrix things, like I'm all of a sudden an extension of a supply chain, and I'm being treated the same as a cog or a bearing or a conveyor, but I got muscles and tendons. It's like I don't have metal and plastic, and you just put some oil in there and it works better. So it's so it's kind of like these people, they will burn you up and throw you away, and they say, well, that's our customer promise.
Yeah.
But they don't look at you as working for them as you're a customer too. That was one thing I took away from the police department that I worked with, is that it changed my thinking about who customers are. Because one of the places I worked, everybody within that building is your customer. Your coworker in the next desk is a customer. The chief is a customer. Everybody, plus the people on the outside, are customers. And I think that too many businesses, they don't even like you as a customer, really, but they really don't like their employees. Like my son said it one time, and it was like, oh, I'm going to steal that. He said that they were looking for employees, and what they got were human beings. And yeah, it was just like, they don't want you to have problems. They just want you. They don't want you to get pregnant. They don't want anything. They just want you to show up and be that cog. And
Yeah.
so, it's really tough. But I think that when it's a time to kind of like get with people who are like-minded and say, hey, let's do a reset. Let's work at making a society that cares more about people, because it's like you can't just keep buying. Here we are. We're in a world where people are trying to go minimal, and you go shop. But what should I buy? Buy disinfectant, and I can't forget what else Donald Trump is talking about. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And heat lamps. What I mean? Like, everyone's talking about him wanting us to drink or shoot up bleach or something like that, but people are forgetting that he also, in that same thing, was talking about light beams. Like, so
in your body.
right. So I think he's like prescribing this kind of like tanning bed bleached out solution, which may be his own a recipe for self-care. I'm not sure. Like, you know, like, 'cause that might be like how he preserves himself, but I'm not sure that's going to work out so well for the rest of us. Um, George, it's been really wonderful talking to you. Can you tell us? Can we get back to the book and start plugging the book after talking all that crap about capitalism? Let's try and
Yeah.
make something here.
Okay. Let me do this. You know,
Yeah.
like I say, the book is going to do what it does. You know, I'm like I say, I'm just like I'm figuring out ways to, you know, to promote and to present stuff. Let me do this. Let me read a poem
Let's
to
do
you.
it. Yeah, let's promote it.
Okay. Well, no. This is a different poem because, like, what I'm doing is I wanted to read something that was like inspired by the
Yeah.
social distancing.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm sorry. I thought I knew what I was doing, and then I lost my papers. This is not what I had intended. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to read this one. And this one kind of goes with our conversation. It's not what I wanted. Wait. Let me look and see if I can find the other one real quick. Okay, I'm going to read this one anyway. It's long. It's a long poem for me.
Okay.
So just be patient. I've never read this before. So, you know, so it's called Flags.
This is a world premiere. See, that's how you sell things. This is a world premiere right here at George Hammonds.
Okay, cool. Okay, it's called Flags. And let me see. I think there's some cuss words in here, but I'll try and figure them out. Okay, flags. I don't mean to start no shit, but I actually don't like flags. They always remind me of other people's motives. They are different than coats of arms or a dream catcher or the dance a honeybee does to tell the hive where the sweetest blossoms are. I have worn flags and displayed them in my home, only to have come full circle to have asked myself, what flag should my children love? I have come to know all types of flags, big ones and little ones, some so tiny that they only existed as reflections in someone else's eyes, some so large they seem to enshroud the entire globe. But the most important, the most profound flags I have ever encountered have come when another person has shown me their intimate flag. They have come buck naked and loved me into a truce, or they have lurked and plotted like a villain from a Shakespearean play, leaving me to say, no way but this, killing myself to die upon a kiss like Othello. And that's the kind of bullshit, and that's kind of bullshit because there is something about a person who wants for you to honor their flag more than they honor you yourself, because they will lay your body down for profit, for spite, or just for a laugh. Whoa. Let me figure out what I'm doing here. My page is flipped. Okay.
Oh.
Okay, I got it. Okay. If I did like a flag, it would be about my neighborhood. It would be about my neighbor Gloria, who thinks that Donald Trump is good looking and who don't want to live with her kids and have them bothering her all the time. If I did have a flag, if I did like a flag, it would be about my city, Pomona, California, named after the goddess of a good time, fruitful abundance, plenty, wood nymph, Pomona, hungry little town, full of dreamers. And so that makes it kind of magical. And so if I liked a flag, it would have to be about my city's magic. If I liked a flag, it would have to be about my state too. I love my California. It's like a modern Egypt, nearly spanning the entire length of the continent, providing every imagined idea of home, every ecosystem, and the people to match. They call the other states the free states, and my flag would tout California as the state that was at least trying to be civilized. If I liked a flag, I would have to, if I liked a flag, I would have to admit as to my secret crush on the free states, their wonders, the idea that if you give a person a chance, you might make a friend. I crave the dialects and idioms, the sense that in the end, funny is funny. If I had a flag somewhere, it would dare to quote Jesse Jackson, my ancestors may have come here in the hold of a slave ship, and your ancestors may have come on the Mayflower, but we are all in the same boat now. If I liked a flag, it would have to represent the oceans and the lakes, the ice caps, and all of the animals and all of the people. And I know that that sounds stupid, but if I had a flag and there was a war, each side would see that they were fighting against themselves. That, like in my aquarium, fish establish territory, they bicker, they fuss, they feud, but they don't escape the aquarium. They're kind of stuck there, and no matter how big a fish or small a fish, they have to figure out that they are all under the same flag. We can all, we can, we can call it the United Aquarium of my apartment, but they have to figure out how to be citizens where they are. If I had a flag, it would seek to help those who must hate, channel their hate towards problems like cancer, global warming, restoring the Amazon rainforest, saving children from predators, figuring out energy and housing and all of the real fucking problems that we face. Turn your aim on why kids are bullied to the point of insanity or just as bad hopelessness. If I had a flag, somewhere somewhere on it would be the words, wake the fuck up. If I had a flag, it wouldn't stop here. It would expand the speed of a fucking idea and spread throughout the galaxy, because that's the type of flag that I would have my children honor. One that wasn't about borders or limits or hate. Like I said, I ain't trying to start no shit, but I actually don't like flags. They always remind me of other people's motives. So this is almost like a workshop poem. You know, it's like a day old. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, but it'll get you like, but that's like raw. And so then like I'll work on the flow, and then I'll work on the presentation. You know, so but that's like that's a good representative. So it's like it kind of starts with the reality of something. You know, like just this process.
Yeah.
And the other poem I was going to read you was better though. It's like it was more of a good example. So anyway.
Anyways,
But,
what advice do you have for people who want to get out there, who love the arts but don't think that they can publish a book, don't think they can get, don't think they can run for poem laureate, don't think they can do any of these things that really you can do it if you just get out there and do it. So what advice do you have to give them?
Well, I mean, the first thing I say is read. Kind of like figure out, see what other people are doing. So go attend readings, but you can go online, like you have access to all of these great poets. You can go like on YouTube. A lot of times I like to listen to people read their own poetry on YouTube. So I mean, like you can go and you can get Robert Frost reading something. So I mean, it's like it's like this library or this. I mean, like all of that is there. So the thing that I would say is just kind of like expose yourself to it in as many forms as you can, and just write. It's something where it can be taught, but you have to have the fire to want to do it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that there's some poets who are just like great technicians and they have no passion, but you can't tell. That's how good a writer they are. Like so it's just like and I think that writing regularly, like I write pretty much every day, but I don't force myself to write every day. Like when I'm reading my emails and when I'm checking out Facebook and editing photos, it's like I'm always like adding a line here or there, and it's like when you go back over your poems, it's just so funny when you say, oh no, it needs another word here so I can get that beat in. So I know it's important to share your work with other people to kind of get feedback and stuff, but I think that you need to have the right people to get that feedback from. You have to be in safe environments. And so like places like the DAW and things like that, where you that's one thing I'll say. I have like really small family. Like I don't have a lot, like people say, oh, I got 50 cousins. Yeah, I got a couple, I got cousins who through like ancestry.com, all of a sudden I have more cousins than I ever knew I had, but they're like third and fourth cousins and stuff, some of them. But I have a really small family, but the poetry community has been very kind to me. And that's one of the things I think almost more important than any type of aspect that a person can have. I think that people who are kind they kind of cover all the bases, because if you're kind, you're going to be fair. If you're kind, like I'm saying, it's just like just the basics. And I'm not religious or anything, but there's a lot, it's weird because I have like a lot of little religious, I went all the way through Catholic school. So I went, 12 years through Catholic school. So they beat that shit out of me. No, I mean, it's like, I don't mean to be rude, but it's just like, I just don't believe, I tend to be really agnostic about a lot of things. So it's like, my attitude is, it's like, even like with the news, I don't know what to believe almost anymore. Like you see these things like, oh, Donald Trump eats babies. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. His belly's, like I don't know. But my point is that all I can worry about is me and the people who I directly influence. And so I try to be kind, but this country makes you, like, I'm driving along and somebody does something like I got bad words coming out of me right away. And so I think that our impulse is to jump and be angry a lot of times. And so I think that, like for myself, it's almost like how like when you're a little kid and they tell you count to 10, and then count back down again and cool down. I try and just be really, really see that other person as a person. And so I think that, like, for young writers, don't be afraid. Just go sit and listen until you have courage to get up and read, because share your work. It's totally different when you're not sharing it. It was like when you contacted me and asked me to do this, I was like, oh man, I'm a babble like Donald Trump, because I think that there's a danger to just unscripted chit chat. Like, ooh, you might say anything, but we see it. Like we see it lived out. So, like when you were talking to me, I was like, well, I'll just be like the everyman. The guy cooped up in the house writing poems. But I think that for young people who, like, it's funny because I have a guy who's I read at an event at Cal State San Bernardino. There's like maybe 300 people there. And so I read at an event. So afterwards, a guy came and approached me, and he's a young guy. He says, hey, could I send you some poems and have you, give me feedback? And it's like, sure. And so I think that, people got to do what he does, be willing to put yourself out there, and that's one thing. I spent some time kind of, working mostly as a technician with a theater company. And one thing I know about theater is you have to be willing to look like a fool. You don't have to be a fool, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there and play that part. And I think that that's kind of like the same with poetry. You have to be willing. I mean, or if that's what you want to do, like if you're serious and you want to make headway, you got to let people see what you're doing, and you got to be willing to take the feedback. Like if they say that sucks, and you have to be okay to write a poem that sucks. It's like the one I just read. It's rough, and I know the elements are there. So how I work it out, it'll probably be, and for me, a lot of times, like when I'm writing, I tend to write too much and then I cut stuff out because the story is there, and how can I say this with the least amount of words possible?
Yeah. So we're gonna drop the link below to talk about so where people can purchase your book. What was the name of the book again?
It's Witness.
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 And who's publishing you?
It's published on Showtime, Picture Show Press. I'm sorry, Picture Show Press. And then the other one is a book called Hungry to Bed, and it's published by Arroyo Seco Press.
And we will drop the links to both below. Thank you so much, George, for your time. I really appreciate you. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful, both scripted and unscripted. Just going back and forth.
Okay, I got one last joke. So I go out, every time I go out, I come back in. And like if I have to go shopping or something, and I think I have coronavirus,
Oh.
And so then I'm sitting there at my desk, and I was like, oh shoot, I probably went out to Costco and got the coronavirus. And then I'm sitting there and I look next to me, and there's like a little shot glass with whiskey in it. It's like, oh, it's just that whiskey. Okay, that's it. I gotta go. Okay, thank you so much, man.
I'll see you later, George.
Okay.